What's going on, everybody? It's Charles. I have the Miata right here behind me, and in this video, we're going to be doing some front-end disassembly, some inspections, and we're going to see just how much damage there is to the front end from that impact, see what it's going to take to fix it, and maybe even take some measurements to be sure that something isn't completely out of whack. Basically, what I want to know is, are we going to be able to massage everything back with some hammers and dollies, or is this going to take some welding and grinding and grinding and grinding and grinding and grinding, and maybe a little bit of paint? Now, this car is never going to be a show car. It's never going to have perfect fitment. I'm not super worried about that. I just want to make sure that we don't have any rubbing issues, any rust issues, or anything that's going to cause a problem with the car, because this is going to only ever be a race car. We are primarily going to be focusing on this driver's side corner right here. As you can see, this is where the majority of the damage is, and we want to get this addressed because we're already getting a little bit of surface oxidation here. Not that I'm super worried about that, but I want to make sure that we don't allow this to become a problem. In the first video, I went ahead and pulled this fender off, so we're going to get this out of the way, headlight, bumper, and we're going to do a really good evaluation. Whatever this is right here, I don't know if this is just a ground junction or what. We need to see what's up with that, see how much metal we're going to have to move around in order to get it right. Now, the big key here is going to be to stay organized, which means as we take parts off, I'll probably end up putting the bolts right back where they came from. That way we don't have to worry about where the heck did these bolts go. I'm assuming these bits of plastic are bits of bumper cover. Let's see if we can get this big bumper off next. Looks like we're probably going to have to take the headlight out to get this other one out. Interesting headlight adjuster there. I'm assuming there's probably also supposed to be a cover on this bulb back here at the back. Looks like we got a series of bolts at the bottom as well, holding the bumper on. Check these bolts out. They have this little spacer right here. That's so you don't damage the bumper cover when you install them. VW does a lot of this kind of stuff too. All right, so there's just a big old plastic bumper that we got removed. We can get that out of the way. So now I think the next step is we got to get some of this headlight leftover pieces out of the way. This is all kind of smashed in here. All right, so our headlight's all smashed in here. Let's see what we got to do to remove this. We'll just persuade this up a little bit. There we go. Let's take this bracket right here off and see what that does for us. So it looks like some of this is pretty smashed in, especially over on this side. So I think what we'll be able to do is actually just kind of hammer this back up. For example, like this piece, this, we should be able to bend this all back into place. We'll probably use the passenger side as a guide to see just what we need to do for this over here. In addition to that, once we get a new fender, we'll be able to see how much higher we need to bend this, get this piece straightened out as well. Some of this is pretty thin, and I can actually just bend it by hand, but we'll be smarter than that and use a hammer. For comparison, see how flat this piece is? See how smashed this side is. Let's see if we can get access to this guy right here, see what's going on with it. All right, so this looks just like a ground junction. I'm looking at the wires here, and they actually look okay. I don't see any broken wires or anything like that. We could open this connector up and look for corrosion, but I think it's going to be all right. Looks like there's a bracket behind here. Might be easier just to unbolt this bracket. So we really need to work on this part right here and see how we can get it back, sort of back in action. Get this fog light harness out of the way. Now, let's get some flat locking jaw pliers and just try and straighten this out as best we can. I'm sure all of you guys that are body shop guys are like having a heart attack right now by what I'm doing to this car. But keep in mind, This is never going to be like a nice fancy car. This is something we're just trying to get drivable, trying to get right, trying to get close. Now the metal's already pretty bent, which usually means that it's a bit stretched out. So we'll kind of have to address that as it goes. I almost wonder if just getting a new piece, this whole piece, is worth the effort. And it really looks like this piece needs to be up higher. We got some bent metal back behind here too we'll have to address. It looks like right here should line up. Like this is probably all one piece. It just ripped, straight up ripped. Should all be a nice smooth transition here. So I have a feeling this will probably take a little more massaging. We may have to wait till we get a new fender, bumper, and headlight just to see how much this needs to come up. So we're making some progress, although it doesn't really look super pretty. We're making some progress on getting this corner straightened out. This is the bracket that we removed earlier, and you can see right here where the metal was creased, actually right here as well. So we have a choice to make. I can get another one of these pieces, and we can use that as sort of a template in order to make this fit properly. Another option would be just to try and bend this one back into place. I actually don't think this fitting perfectly is going to be vital to the fitment of the rest of the car. But even though I said, like, I don't really care about fitment, you guys know me and I want it to be somewhat right anyway. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a couple of the bolts in, try and line it up, and maybe we can just manipulate it this way in order to get it to fit a little bit better. You can already see the issue we're gonna have here is it's not lined up properly or lined up here at the top. Look at how big this gap is right here. So it looks like this piece needs to come forward a little bit, maybe even down a little bit. And this piece probably needs to swing up a little bit. So I think since I'm gonna have to get some new body panels anyway, I think I might just get another one of this piece right here. That way it's straight and we can kind of mold the rest of this corner off of this piece, off of a new fender that's straight, and use the headlight as a guide for the opening up here. Okay, so I think we're in a pretty good place with that front end cosmetic. Once we get some new parts, we can make some final massaging adjustments and get it reasonably close. Close enough where I'm comfortable with anyway. But you guys had some great questions about subframe shifting, frame of the car bent, and that kind of stuff. So let me show you a couple of quick things you can do just to kind of ballpark whether or not something's severely bent. Now, this is actually best done, say, on an alignment rack with the proper measuring equipment, but you can do this kind of thing just as a quick check to see if something's really, really messed up. First of all, we want to do that visual inspection, and we're looking at vital fasteners, so the bolts that hold the subframe into place, control arm bolts, eccentric bolts for alignment, shock absorber bolts, and we're looking for evidence of the bolt being shifted one way or the other. This almost always comes in the form of a witness mark. As you can see here, the bolt is secured, no evidence of it ever being moved. When a bolt shifts, it actually leaves either a clean spot where the bolt was, or maybe a spot where, say, there's no paint. If you see that, you know for sure something has happened to this bolt. Also, the edges of the bolt having paint missing or showing tool marks can be a good indicator that something's moved or something's been removed. But from a standpoint of just doing some quick checks, we can do some pretty quick and easy checks with just a tape measure. And we're gonna find parts on the car that have a left side and a right side because we may not have access to what the specifications are. So let's say we wanna measure the shock absorber to the body of the car. Center of the shock absorber here to here is about 3 inches. You know, it should be roughly, hopefully the same on the back side of the shock absorber. And then we'll go measure the other side and see what the other side measures out at. Same thing, like shock absorber to the edge of the control arm. The upper control arm to the body of the car back here. What is this measurement? Find a static point and then make that measurement on the other side. Front to rear, same thing, make that on both sides. Frame to subframe, left to right. Will give you an idea of whether or not something's severely bent. If it's only minorly tweaked, you may not see that, but grabbing a simple tape measure and taking that measurement is super quick, super easy, barely an inconvenience, and you'll know at least it's not super messed up. Another thing when someone gets a car like this, one of their early instincts is to dive in and clean, get everything all nice and spotless. I actually think that's a really bad idea. I like to leave things dirty for a little while so that we can do a better inspection and look for damage, look for problems, look for leaks. If we blew all this oil and grime out from the bottom here, we may not see that there's a problem right away. Take this bolt here, for example. If that bolt had shifted, we might not see it, whereas if we left the dirt, we could see it pretty easily. So try and avoid that temptation to just dive in and power wash and pressure wash and get everything all spotless looking fresh. You really want to do your due diligence on inspections. Make sure everything's good before diving in and making all those things clean and pretty looking. I'd rather them look ugly for a little while and be able to identify an issue than have it clean and potentially miss something. All right, so guys, with that, I'm gonna wrap it up. Questions or comments, drop them down below. My next steps are some basic maintenance, getting the fluids taken care of in this car, new spark plugs, diagnosing and fixing that oil leak, coolant flush, oil change. Then I gotta visit the Mazda Miata parts dude and score some parts to get all this stuff put back together. We'll probably have a little more massaging to do over here once I get some new parts. We gotta shop tires, we gotta shop brakes, and hopefully pretty soon she'll be ready for her maiden voyage. So with that, I'm out. Have an awesome day, and I'll talk to you guys again next time.